This week's stick figure challenge is this one right here, so I thought it would be fun to do it twice. Once in a realistic and one in a more exaggerated way. Not sure what to call it, but comics in the 90s got a lot of flack for drawing women like this. I made a whole video about that Rob Liefeld female anatomy, so I'll skip his style for today. Realistic, unrealistic. Is it just about correct anatomy? Well, if you look at these two Charlize Theron pictures and their rogue counterparts, it would be a bit too simplistic to say realistic and unrealistic, right? So judging realism needs to take some other elements into account. The pose, the angle, the lighting, the clothes. Okay, let's start with the female proportions, because male and female bones are very similar. And the famous stereotype is that men have wide shoulders and women wide hips. But if we trace this pattern, you see it's not that different. But the female curves do point outwards more here, and it feels narrower in the hips. Let's make them the same size. So yes, this shape here, let's call it the old-time film director megaphone, or the hourglass, of course. David Mazzucchelli is my favorite of the realistic artists. And the difference here between Batman and Catwoman is not that much. Maybe just the clothes even. But here in the hips, you get that feminine cone shape. There's a very interesting comparison to make in the Rogue of John Romita Junior in the 80s and Marc Silvestri. JR's Rogue is curvy and attractive, but realistic in her movements. And then Silvestri starts exaggerating the length of the legs, and somehow his characters feel like they're more aware of the camera. It's that paparazzi versus fashion model shoot again. They're graceful and aware of their hourglasses. And even though the bend in the hip is similar here, in JR's Rogue it's a movement, and in Silvestri's Dazzler it's kind of like striking a pose. JR was still very classic Marvel at this point, with that legacy of his father behind him. But Silvestri is the transition into the new style to come. Funnily enough, now reality is kind of caught up with this exaggeration. But I digress. I'm doing Rogue in the Outback X-Men outfit on both sides. Doing my best to draw realistic clothes in the wind without reference. For the unrealistic one, adding some slight manga shapes like Joe Mad did. But mostly just exaggerating the curves and proportions. So gonna give her huge hands. Done! Okay, let's check out the original, which was the Arthur Adams White Queen. Very nice. And funny that it's kind of in the middle when it comes to realism as well. Very narrow waist compared to the hips. Nice extreme curves in the leg. Breasts probably a bit higher than your average woman's, even in that corset. Here, check this shadow out. Instantly makes it clear that this part of the leg goes to the back. I'm quite satisfied with the degree of realism here in mine, but since that's today's topic, I thought I could do it a bit better. So I'll try it again, with some David Mazzucchelli reference next to it. Making sure now to have the torso quite long, and not such an extreme difference in width. Drop the hands a bit. And yeah, so let's just go with Catwoman then. But giving her some claws. I like that simple mouth he used. Kind of like two flat triangles. So blatantly copying that here. Also that shoulder line that goes straight into the clavicle look cool. Yeah, I say yes to this. And my Catwoman does biceps curls in the evening. Let's see how the weekly challenge participants did this week. Super Chevalier with a DragonBall android? Check. Great hands. Very hard to do, but they look really good. I do want to do a quick redraw of the legs though. I feel like there's something about the knee placement. So the left leg is the standing leg and that becomes the base. I'm trying to make it a bit clearer which leg goes front and back. And like we saw in Arthur Adams' one, the shadow really helps with that. But now that I look at it, his longer lower legs look better than my stocky ones. So let's go over there. Maybe just some more curves and that shadow. Yeah, I take it back. Chevalier's underlying structures worked well. Maybe just add a little highlight here to distinguish the two boots so we know which foot is in front. But yeah, cool. Here, Raoul knows what I like. Classic Storm. Great lighting, especially here on the costume and the stomach. You get that instant shine and depth. And I will use that trick with the hands for sure. But kind of the same tip as Chevalier with the legs. Little bit unclear on the foot and knee lengths and the perspective. If both legs are straight, I might turn the toes out on at least one of the feet. But I also made it easy on myself here actually. Anyway, another fun challenge. Check the link in the description if you want to join in next week. Drop a like if you enjoyed watching this episode and catch you next time.